Yeah, the call of wild's always bringing me home. Call of wild's always bringing me home. Call of wild's always bringing
That's okay.
me
Cool. Okay. Well,
home.
hello, wild ones. Welcome to another episode of the Find Your Wild podcast. I am very excited to have Candice Dyer here with me today, wildlife photographer and wildlife advocate. And I don't know if there's anything else I'm missing, but I'm very excited to have you here.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Wonderful. So, your work is so fantastic and beautiful, and we'll get into some of that beautiful pictures later. But I would love to start off with like how you got started in wildlife photography.
So, uh, it's a long answer to the question, but I started out with photography in general around 2008. And I like to say that like it's always been in my blood, photography, because I grew up in a family where we were always out camping, we were always out hiking, and I'm thankful to have parents that really instilled that love of nature in me. And my dad, for as long as I can remember, he'd go out with a camera in his hands, and he's really, I credit him for instilling that love of nature and respect for wildlife. And later on in life, I ended up working around cameras in the retail industry as a territory manager, and I bought one. I just decided to buy one day, and I went out hiking a lot and started bringing it along with me. But wildlife photography didn't start right then, mostly because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford the gear for it. I think that a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
So I started out with just shooting landscapes and the stuff that I saw when I was out hiking. But there was this pivotal moment about 4 years ago in Yellowstone that really shifted everything for me. And ever since then, seeing seeing wolves, a wolf pack in Yellowstone, it just kind of I like to say that it set me on this trajectory where I never looked back. And by that time, I was able to actually afford the right gear for wildlife photography. And with the invention of mirrorless, that I feel like that really helped a lot of people too. More affordable, more lightweight, for people to be able to pursue this type of passions. But yeah, wildlife photography, it was always something I wanted to do. To start out, when I purchased a camera, it was just I was more limited because of the price point and the gear,
Right.
and yeah, like once I was able to get to that level, once I was able to actually, after conducting my own workshops over time, it's always a good thing to be able to purchase your own gear when you do workshops. So I was
Of
able
course,
to,
right?
yes, yeah, I feel like there's people who, if you're doing it full time, then that's your whole income. But I always say, like, if you're doing it part time, if you're able to pay for your own gear, good for you, right?
Hmm.
And so after a couple years, I was able to, after doing it part time, and that's really what I feel like started things for me, was being able to do my own workshops, save up, and then that pivotal moment about 4 years ago in Yellowstone, that maybe just fall in love with wildlife photography and set forth more of that passion for it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. And I love that because I feel like that's really inspirational that we can just find our passions as we go along in life too, and that there isn't like an end date to when you can start like exploring your passions or everything like that. I know that you have a daughter and that she's going off to college soon, so I'm sure that like makes room for you now that you're kind of like an empty nester as they call it, right? So
Yeah, I guess I'm going through my midlife crisis. Is that what they call it? She's going to be starting her third year of university here in just a few weeks, which blows my mind. She's going to be
wow. Oh, okay. So
21.
you've been an empty nester for a little while. So yeah.
Yeah, unless you count the cats. Yeah, she's very much in love with. She goes to University of Victoria. She's in love with it there. She's been working this summer here, but she plans on actually spending the majority of her time up there starting this fall, and she wants to start working up there next summer too. And I'm so proud of her and just
Oh,
so thrilled for her future. She's going to do great things. She's looking to potentially be a child therapist as of right now. That's what she wants to do, and she's great with kids. She wants to
oh,
help
that's
kids, so
great.
very, very happy for her.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's like it's so nice too to talk to moms, and like my son's really little, but just, it's like so inspiring to see like our kids grow. And I mean, I can't believe my son's already like 3.5 and like how fast it goes. But
Yeah,
and I think that also it's like a nice path that she's doing too, like child therapy. Like my son's had to do some, I don't know what type of therapy, but like he's had to do like he was a little delayed in speech and OT, and like, he's really loved his teachers and everything like that. And they've really helped him a lot.
right.
So as a mom, I'm really grateful for those people.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting for her. I'm very happy for her. I don't know her, but I'm very happy for her.
I'm of the mindset that I think everybody should have a therapist. So I
Me
think that
too.
for
Yeah.
too long there's been this taboo or stigma behind it, but I think that more people would be far better balanced and, maybe peaceful in their lives if they had that. And she's actually had her own therapists since she was a kid. And I think that's why she wants to do it, is because she recognizes just how important they are for people in
Yeah,
society.
I couldn't agree more, Candace, too, because I've also been somebody that's struggled with mental health for a really long time. And I've noticed such a big difference by going to therapy myself and having therapy. My husband goes to therapy. He's really seen a difference. So it's just so incredible. And I kind of agree in the sense that I kind of do think everybody should go to therapy just because, like, everything, all of our life paths are different, and we could always use that like third party person to be able to have as like a talking board, or just to give us life
Yeah.
advice. And life is hard, so it's good to focus on our mental health, and it's really nice to be in a time where I think that is such a bigger focus too.
Yeah. And I feel like, having it be more affordable obviously would be great for people. That's obviously a challenge.
Yeah, yeah,
For people
exactly.
who can't, though, I mean, I feel like if you're not able to financially, then, on the topic of what we're discussing, being out in nature is huge for a lot of people, including myself. And I feel like that really grounds people and helps them out on that front tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's also shown in science too, right? With bird
Yes.
song and, the forest bathing, all of these, things that I can't think of the list off of the top of my head, but there's just so much scientific evidence that being out in nature is really good for us and our mental health. And I
And all
think
it
that
takes is it's like a half hour a day. If you can get out
yeah.
for a half hour a day, even if it's just walking down the street to your local like pond or I don't know, not everybody has that, I guess, but just getting a little bit of green space time is huge for it's been proven, like you said, with science to reduce anxiety, depression. You're going to have my cat walk in the frame here in a second, I
Oh,
think.
that's
She's up
okay. No worries.
on the desk
my,
here. Um,
my big dog was just about to come over, but she's laying down, so it's no worries.
still in there.
What's your cat's name?
This is Sabrina. You can't really see her, I
Oh,
guess,
hi
very well,
Sabrina.
but no, she's,
Is it
I don't know.
Sabrina after Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
It is actually, and my husband
Yes.
Ryan would be high-fiving you right now if he was in here because that's the reason why he wanted to name her Sabrina.
Oh, I
Um,
love it. I love it. I love that show too growing up. It was so good.
and we also have a cat named Simon. The reason he's not in here right now is because he would be all over me, like literally tapping me the entire time. He's a very needy cat, so he's not
Very
in
needy.
here right
It's funny the personalities that our pets have too, right? Like that I have a similar thing is like my one dog, the bigger dog, is actually super cuddly. I have a 100-pound Newfoundland, and then
now. Oh,
I
wow.
also have a mini Australian Shepherd. So, and he's my shadow, and he follows me everywhere. But he's not as like you need to pet me right now as she is. But it's very funny the the different personalities too.
That's so funny. Yeah, I used to have a dog growing up, a Rottweiler that was almost 150 pounds. So this is a big change in my life going to cats.
Of course, but I'm sure it's you're traveling often. I think it's sometimes unfortunately I can't have cats because everybody in my family's allergic but me.
Oh, geez.
So I have to just love them from afar, or if my friend has one. But it seems like they're kind of easier at least to take care of when, like, if you're traveling or something like that,
Yeah, they are more independent, that's for sure. For the most part.
for the most part.
Simon's he's the exception. He's
Right.
I guess more like a dog. He from the moment we've had him, he just most of the time is my shadow. To the point where
Aw.
I can't even go to the restroom alone. So I don't know how if anybody relates to that with their cats, but he's like up in your face, like I need you all
Aw.
the time.
Simon the cat dog.
Yes.
I love that. So would you say that, when how long ago was it now? Like 4 years ago, you said you went to Yellowstone and you got those pictures of the wolves?
Yes. Yeah, it was
Do you,
October of 2021.
wow.
And yeah, I think the images that I sent over to you of the Wapiti pack, that was this pivotal moment, I'd say that, and I always feel like it sounds cliche or cheesy to be like, this is the one moment in my life that stirred everything up, but it's true. Um, I feel like it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Now that I really reflect on it, I feel like it was really supposed to happen because ever since it did, I've totally changed as a person. Um, and it really just stirred something up in me getting to share this time with a species that is so misunderstood and relentlessly persecuted. Um, I felt like uh, the reason I think it felt like it was supposed to happen too is because, I mean, I was literally told by the park ranger that I hit the lottery when it happened.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I remember, I had one day in Yellowstone at the time after traveling around in Utah on the Tetons, supposed to be doing a private workshop and then afterwards have some extra time to myself. And it's like, I'll go down and just see what's in the park and
Um,
drove down and it was less than 45 minutes in that I saw that ranger vehicle. And uh, I'll never forget it. I mean, it's all, I can envision it all again so clearly right now. And I pull over to the side and see an entire pack of wolves that just taking down an elk. And my brain wasn't processing at the moment what all I was seeing. It was like, this can't be happening. How am I seeing
yeah.
this? And it was pretty close to the road. Um,
Wow.
but I knew that they were definitely not coyotes because they were massive compared to them.
Yeah.
And so then my brain finally processed it when the one wolf was 1, 2, 3, 4, black wolf turned its head and looked at me and just, I'll never forget. Like, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it. And these eyes that are the whitish yellow, just these the most intense eyes you could ever think of seeing, stared right at me, but it wasn't staring right at me. It was like looking through me.
Yeah.
And it does something to you when that happens. And anybody who says it doesn't, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just a different kind of human because I felt something I had never felt before. And that wasn't the only time it looked at me, but that was the first contact where my brain was just like, wow, I was just mind blown and
Yeah.
just shivers. And for the next several hours, I was able to witness this pack of wolves. Specifically, there were four there most of the time. The Wapiti pack's pretty big, but four
Yeah.
of them were on the carcass, and for the majority of time that I was there, and and it was like they were sharing a part of their lives with me and with other people who eventually came along um,
Right.
to view it. And that specific wolf, 1, 2, 3, 4M, I found out a few weeks afterwards, after I shared about the experience seeing them in Yellowstone, I came to find out that they wandered outside of the invisible park boundary and were shot. They just were shot like they were nothing for the price of a wolf hunting tag, which I think is $13, something like that.
Wow.
And they weren't even going after anyone's livestock. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were shot and killed on site because they were a wolf, and for no other reason than that they were a wolf. And the stigma that they constantly face, and hatred, blind hatred, particularly in the Northern Rockies, I came to find out afterwards. That's what really shook me up as a human. I wanted to know from then on, why? What is it?
Yeah.
Why are they hated so much? What could lead to this incredibly magnificent, beautiful creature that shared its world with me? What could compel somebody to just want to shoot them like they were nothing, like they were vermin? And what I found in the process was just this unlimited wealth of information from all different walks of life and perspectives that made me realize what a complex issue it is.
Yeah.
It made me learn and understand, grow to understand just how deeply misunderstood wolves are as an apex predator. And just even relating it back to my own childhood and what everybody reads from as a kid, or most people read as a kid in fairy tales, about this ingrained perception that we're fed that wolves are scary and horrible and bad. The big bad wolf, Little Red Riding Hood, even the never ending story with that wolf that's talking about the great nothing. These are all things that make people, your brain as a kid is processing this information like wolves equals bad. And that's really hard to break as you are developing, because when you're constantly fed that, I mean, those are like core things that are being ingrained to your mind. And then as you get older, you're being told, no, that's actually not true. And this is why. And there's all these facts as to why this is wrong. So then the challenge becomes changing a mindset for people, not just on that front, but also people who are ranchers and hunters who have been told since, not just that, but they're also being told from their parents, from their family members, from everybody around them who, well, I don't know about everybody, but a good portion of the community they're associated with, why they should not like wolves, why they should be killed, why they're bad, even if maybe that's not accurate. Maybe, maybe they just think that is how it is because that's what they were told. That's really difficult. It's a really difficult challenge that this species faces. And as I was absorbing all of this, I realized they really need somebody in their corner. They really need somebody helping them. And what better way to utilize my platform and my photography than to advocate for them? Because I know if I was that wolf, that I would want the wolf that got killed just for being a wolf, I'd want somebody helping me. I'd want somebody to speak for me, to tell my story. I'd want somebody to understand that I'm not some monster. I'm just trying to survive. I'm trying to support my family. I'm trying to live off of the landscape. And hey, maybe in the process, I'm doing a favor to the landscape too. I'm a keystone species. I'm helping to balance the landscape, and without me, things start to fall apart. So that's what I'm trying to do, is tell that story. And hopefully, even if it changes, a handful of people's minds, then I'm doing something good. It's better than nothing. And I like to think that since I've started this journey with being more of an advocate for wolves, that I've done that. I sure hope I have that I've
I
changed some minds.
I think so. I mean, I've been following your photography for a while now, and and just looking at the pictures that you sent again, and I'll pop it up on the screen for people listening. But I mean, I can only imagine what it was like to see that in person, because as someone that's just viewing it through a photo, I mean, it. I said to my husband when I was showing him, this might be my favorite wolf picture ever. I mean, it really stares into your soul,
Is it the
like
black wolf?
the black wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really stares into your soul, and it's really heartbreaking to hear that just a little while after that picture that, you know, their lives were taken just for living, just for crossing an invisible boundary, which is really devastating. And I think that, to your point, is it's a very complex issue, and it's very hard and complicated to be able to change people's minds. I mean, I feel like I've talked about this. Hey, buddy. I feel like I've talked about this a lot on the podcast too. And I do think about it like, as we're talking right now, and like thinking about, future guests that I have on, like, what is some way that, you can try to change someone's mind? Because, like you said, it's kind of like your parents tell you a certain thing, and obviously as we grow up to adults, it takes us a long time to be able to become our own people, and to not be just indoctrinated by what they're teaching us, or to become our own person. But a lot of times people have to actively seek that out to be able to become their own person too. So it reminds me of the quote of, somebody has to want to change, or somebody has to want help in order to be able to help them, or something like that.
Right.
So I think that through your photography, I think that wildlife photography and videography is some of the, if not the best way to kind of translate that to other people, like to be able to have this experience, that like to be able to relate to these creatures in a way that's also, you know like, because you are very obviously focused on ethical, photography, and not being like disturbing to the animal, and like that's a small part of wildlife photography. I feel like most people that love wildlife photography are trying to be as ethical as possible.
Right.
So that's like an important part as well. But to be able to showcase to people that maybe don't see or don't recognize, or like will never get a chance to see these creatures, to be able to have people hopefully advocate for them in other places is so important. And it is such a complex question of like, how can we change somebody's mind, right? Like, it's almost like they have to have that experience. Like, I got the chills when you were telling that story, because I really do feel like you were led there, right? And like the way that he was looking at you, the black wolf, like almost like passing the baton, of like, tell my story, like, tell my species story, like advocate for me. It's just it really is incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, after a while, there were crowds of people showing up, so it didn't feel that special anymore. But for a while, I had that mostly to myself, aside from the ranger that was there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it felt so special, was that I had, and I mean, it wasn't just seeing that specific wolf look at me, or seeing the wolves in general. It was after about 10, 15 minutes of standing there, and it was just the rain coming down, the elements, it started snowing. And it
Wow.
was just like, I can't even describe, like, seeing the wolves in their element. Like, it was like they were just saying, like, this is where we reign supreme. This is our field here. And like, it's just, it's something I never would have imagined would happen right in front
Yeah.
of me. And I'm still to this day so extremely thankful that it did happen. I think, there's probably a lot of people that have experiences of seeing wolves in Yellowstone, and maybe they just drive on afterwards and they're just like, oh, that was cool. That's not what happened for me though. And I think
Yeah.
part of that is part of what made it so special was, first thing in the morning going in and having that happen right in front of me, like you said, like it was meant to happen. And I think having the recent encounter that happened in Alaska too with the white wolf, that, I mean, that was something else too, a very different type of encounter, a solo wolf, but it seemed to reinforce to me that I was on the right pathway. That's
Yeah.
what that encounter did for me when I was, this just happened recently in Alaska, a very remote area of Alaska. This white wolf appears out of nowhere and passes by our camp. Um, and it was like, it was, in my mind, it was telling me, you're doing the right thing. Keep going. You're on the right
Yeah.
pathway. Don't lose sight of what you're doing.
It's incredible. And I love that picture too. I'll also, for people listening, I'll pop that on the screen. But I mean, it literally, and again, also another picture where I feel like the wolf is kind of staring into your soul, like through the camera. I'm
Isn't that a
sure it felt,
beautiful wolf? It's a gorgeous
yeah,
wolf, isn't it? Um,
gorgeous, beautiful.
yeah, and it, it was much closer than the Wapiti pack, but this was an area where very few humans go, and
Hmm.
I can't even say where it is because it's very much not a touristy place, and it was just myself on a friend's trip with three other friends, and it was a group called the Wildlife Collective, who you're probably familiar with,
Hmm.
and a big reason why we were there, the main reason was um, to see the bears and to talk more about and document what was going on up there with the aerial gunning. And the wolves are also being persecuted up there, the aerial gunning. So it was very unexpected. They're still elusive wolves, but
Yeah.
we knew they were in the area because part of our group had seen the tracks everywhere, and then I saw tracks. I actually saw a wolf track inside of a bear track one day. So
Wow.
we knew they were there, and we knew another guide had told us that there was a wolf in the area and to keep on the lookout for it, but I never would have imagined that I'd ever actually see it, let alone have it literally just pass right by the camp, and share some time with us. And incredibly special. Again, like I actually had that video you mentioned. I had quite a few people ask me if it was AI or accuse me of it being AI because, you know, I
It
can
was so
understand
good.
why they would think it. And sadly, people have to ask that question now about everything, but I can understand why because it doesn't look like that would ever happen, right?
Yeah, and I also, I think about this a lot too. And I went to visit in November. I went to go visit my friend Aspen, and she's a wildlife photographer and guide in Alligator River National.
Yeah.
And then that's with the red wolves. And
Yeah.
I was very lucky to get to see them from way off in the distance, and I felt lucky to see them. I think that people think that they can just show up to Yellowstone and think that the wolves are there. And I think that there's this like disconnect of like how much time and um luck, and like skill to actually like try to find these animals is needed, and how lucky you are to even be able to have that. So to even have like both of those experiences are so lucky, right?
Yeah.
And just this like preciousness of wow, being able to just be in the presence of this animal is really cool.
Yeah.
um yeah, but I do want to also talk about the unfortunate aerial gun down of the bears. I saw a post, and I forgive me, I don't remember who posted it, but there's that famous spot, and I don't know if you guys were there, but where like that river is where all of the bears go to catch the salmon in Alaska.
So we weren't there. We were in a different area, which I
Is
can't tell
not
you where we were,
touristy.
but
Don't
yeah,
worry, yeah.
yeah.
But
But what you're referring to, this aerial gunning is happening literally just 30 miles from Katmai, 50 miles from McNeil River, Brooks Falls. I think that's the area you're referring to, maybe. Um,
yeah,
so what that means is what that's translating into, and they're already seeing the impacts of it, is that fewer bears are showing up to these areas that are normally, bringing in a huge amount of tourism for people. So, tourism brings in way more money than hunting does. Um,
right.
and, not just Yellowstone, but I think most places you'll find that's the case. And
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so that means in them doing this, which is not scientifically backed whatsoever, they're also going to end up, as a result, it's very likely that the tourism industry is going to suffer as well.
Yeah.
And despite, I think it's very important to kind of hammer in the fact that the board ignored over 60,000 public comments from
Yeah.
people opposing this cruel program that will also target mothers and cubs. It's not ethical at all, and they voted 6-0 despite the outcry from the public. And so then the question is, why would they do that? Well,
Right.
you have to look into who's on the board. What's their background? And it's actually laid out very clearly on a website. When you have a board that consists of hunters, which route do you think they're going to go? Hunters, people that are more for development, people that are more for, I mean, this is consistent. It's not just with Alaska that you're going to find this. This is what's going on in Montana. And I know this
Yeah.
because I've literally sat on board meetings with the commission in Montana. Do you know how difficult it is to sit on a board meeting pleading with them, spouting scientific data and facts to people who are trophy hunters, ranchers, a woman who has her own trophy hunting TV show? These people are handpicked, usually by the governor of the state. In Montana, it's by the governor of Montana. He handpicks the commissioners because he knows that they're going to vote that way. He knows what way things are going to go because they're extremely biased. This isn't about science in any of these places. This isn't about being ethical. It's not about anything that has to do with logic or reason, management, balance. This is about blood sport. It's about politics, and it's about money. And
it's
it's not the
rigged.
money about, for tourism with Yellowstone, they bring in $82 million for tourism, for wildlife watching, and hunting. It brings in a tiny fraction of that. But I'm talking about, that's not the money that they're looking at. These are people that are in the back pocket of, the people that you have running everything people are in the back pocket of the hunters and the small special interest groups. It's a small percentage of people that are calling the shots, and they're ignoring what the public wants. And specifically in the Rockies, we know that 91% of, I mean, if you look at the depredations for livestock, it's less than 1%.
Hi, wild ones. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Find Your Wild podcast. This episode is brought to you by my clothing brand Femme Sauvage, and I'm going to link that in the description below along with a little discount code for you. Be sure to check it out. We also donate $5 with each of our animal designs towards specific charities. I will also have those in the description below. And enjoy the rest of the episode. Thanks so much for listening.
So, one thing that's important to note about wolves is that the non-lethal deterrent methods that are available have proven to be 91% effective. And we know this, we have the facts, and the commissioners are aware of this, it's brought to them, but they don't care. Killing is far less effective. We know it is, but that information is ignored. So it's really up to them to be more responsible about it. They have this information already. It's made public, and nothing's being done about it. I mean, the ranchers are also they're totally on board, a good portion of the ranchers, with trying out these non-lethal deterrent methods. And there's only 1% of funding going towards it. So if you have something that's 91% effective for non-lethal deterrent methods, and only 1% of the funding available is going towards that, something's really off.
And I also, I talked about this on a previous episode with Diane Boyd. And, a lot of people are very quick to blame the wolf in regards to, killing their livestock, or, not trying to point fingers specifically at, ranchers, but like it's just in this instance is, they'll be like, oh, well, it's the wolf. The wolf, well, but there's also bears, there's coyotes, there's vultures, there's like wild dogs. There's so many other factors that are taken into place that, or rather not being taken into place, that are a big effect of that aren't just wolves.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, they're accountable for less than 1% of
yeah.
livestock depredations.
And they're given compensation for that as well.
Exactly. And
So
on
it's not
top
like
of
they're
that,
lost.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's bad weather, uh, even predatory birds are more, they're more accountable for livestock depredations than wolves are. Predatory
Yeah.
birds, bad weather, disease. Um,
Right.
and there's so many ways for ranchers to try to protect their livestock better that they're not utilizing. And there's groups out there, you've got Wolves of the Rockies that are putting funding towards helping these ranchers too with these
Right.
non-lethal deterrent methods. They're doing I mean, they're bending over backwards trying to help these folks because it doesn't need to be this way. It
And I
really
also
doesn't. We can
immediately
coexist. We know we can.
Exactly. And it makes me immediately think of also, we see this a lot in coyotes, right? Where, you kill one coyote and then we've learned that that's not a deterrent because they're going to breed even more after you kill just one. But, that's also, packs take up specific landscapes in specific areas, right? Like sometimes they get pushed over, pushed out. But for the most part, if you're going to go and then kill that wolf, then another wolf might come in and, like, instead of working with that one wolf or pack to be able to like protect that area, and then they kind of know to not do that, if you're just going to go and kill it, then you're not actually, which leads, to your point about non-lethal methods being much more effective than killing them.
Yeah, I mean, do you want what I would ask ranchers, what is it that would you rather have you go and kill a wolf and then the rest of the pack shows up on your property?
Right.
Or would you
Right.
rather bite it in the butt before anything happens to begin with? And by bite in the
Yeah.
butt, I mean you're taking the proper measures to protect your livestock. And there's so many different ways. You've got fladry, you've got the proper fencing, but human presence, range riders, guard
Right.
dogs. There's so many options and there's so much funding that can be available. But right now, it's only 1%. Imagine if we had more funding for this.
Right.
But instead,
Yeah.
the priority is on cattle and livestock. And it's funny because, I feel like the number one argument that I get from ranchers and hunters is the wolves in this area aren't native to here. The wolves in the Rockies, they're brought down from Canada. They're so much bigger. Was your livestock native? Were those hanging around in
Right.
1500 here? I don't think so. Pretty sure it
Definitely
was the
not.
wolves that we completely exterminated, so we can't magically bring them back to landscape. So we had to bring the next viable option that made sense. And they
Right.
serve the same ecological role and have the same prey. And they're only responsible for less than 1% of the livestock
Yeah.
depredations. And aside from that, we already also know that the ungulates in the area are at stable populations or higher than they should be. I mean,
Right.
you've got Wyoming that just gave out recently unlimited elk tags for hunting. Why would they do that if wolves were
Right.
decimating the populations of their ungulates, as the ranchers and hunters so boldly claim very often? Why would they give out unlimited tags if that was the case?
Such a good point. Such a good point. And I also want to add too, for, and this was also when I was talking to Diane Boyd about this, is that, when people are talking about, oh, well, they're not native wolves, they all cross over the border from Montana to British Columbia and come back and forth. I mean, their range, like when she was tracking them, I mean, their range was just incredible. Like how far they can go, like hundreds of miles in just a little span of time. So they're all the same. They're the gray wolf. There isn't a bigger gray wolf in Canada. That's a misconception. That's like another myth that is not correct. It's not scientifically accurate at all.
And it's a similar
Yeah,
argument for California. You got people who are like, why did they reintroduce them here? They shouldn't have that. They didn't. They naturally
they
came
just
over
walked
from
in.
Oregon.
Yeah,
It's called traveling. Wolves can travel like 60 miles in a day. I know this
right.
because I've witnessed it I didn't see them doing it in Yellowstone, but I know the one time I was there in the wintertime, the Wapiti pack was spotted in one area of the park, and the very next day was on the other end of the park, which was about 60 miles from where they had started out.
Right.
They travel long distances and
Yeah.
quickly. It's very possible for them to cross state lines. It's just so ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too, when I was writing my comment for the Montana, which Project Coyote, shout out to them for coming up with such an easy way for people to be able to post a comment on that as well. So I really appreciated that.
Yes.
And especially because sometimes like it's so hard to know what to say, and like they had all the facts like ready to go, which was really wonderful. But my point was I was trying to add something personal to it, and my thought was, we wouldn't be here as a society what we are today as humans without wolves. Like us talking right now,
Right.
like over, we wouldn't be here without wolves. If you
Right.
love dogs, like then you like wolves are connected to dogs. They're their ancestors. Wolf blood runs in every single one of our dogs. Like even my beautiful doofy noof, that's what I call her. They all have wolf blood running through their veins. Dogs have that, and we
Yeah.
wouldn't be here as a society without wolves. They were one of my very first episodes, like in one of my top 5. I had my friend David Ian Howe on, and he his thing that he studies is ethnosynology, which is the relationship between dogs and people, and he like really focuses a lot also on the wolf aspect, on how we first domesticated wolves and how they were our very first technology, like how we would partner with them to hunt because we had similar hunting styles and everything like that. So this, I find it very hard for people that are constantly demonizing the wolf, that we actually have so much in common. And I really do think this also actually really relates back to mental health too, which is, I think a lot of people are very afraid of their own shadow. And I think that they're afraid of, a lot of inner things. So it's very easy for them to outwardly project and say like, oh, that's a monster or something like that. But we actually have a lot of similar things in common with wolves, especially
Yeah.
the family aspect. The alphas are actually just the parents trying to feed and protect their young. And I challenge people that have a differing opinion than us to think about, like, if you were in their shoes, if you were just trying to survive in the wild and take care of your family, would you want somebody just to shoot you just because you are what you are?
Right.
And we've tried to say we've come a long way in society, and we've done that with people. I mean, granted, I'm sure there's still a long way to go for us as people, but you know we need to have this, I think we need to get rid of this, especially because it's not scientifically based, right? Like in regards to taking out wolves and things of that nature.
Right.
Another point that Diane Boyd talked about on our episode was that wolves regulate themselves. So this aspect of that, we need to regulate wolves. Mother Nature takes care of that. When there's, an ungulate population that's available, there's going to be an abundance of wolves. When it's down, then they're naturally going to go down. There
Yeah.
is no need to do
Yeah. I
that.
mean, we know this. The number one killer of other wolves, or wolves, is other wolves.
Right.
They're very territorial. So, yeah.
Yeah. So
We know this.
right, exactly. So, I mean, and unfortunately, that's seen all the time, like, in Yellowstone and everything like that. But I think it's also like this weird thing of like, what value do they have to us? And I talk about this all the time of like why animals have to have like a certain value. Like, why can't they just have their own value in the ecosystem and in Mother Nature, like as Mother Nature intended them to, instead of like well, they're taking my elk or whatever, like, I think we need to try to, and that, like, that's the point that we were talking about in the beginning, right? Like, how do we change that? Like, because there's a point where some people are just not going to change their mind. They're immediately like, oh, you're a tree hugger, something like that, right? Like, how do we, it's so hard to try to position it where it's like, how do you see this point of view where, there's a value in nature and just being able to be there.
I think it's really important. I mean, just building off of what you're saying too, the vast majority of animals on this planet are livestock. They're serving human needs specifically for food. And I'm not trying to get on some, what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat topic, but I'm just saying that it's a sad thing when the number of the number of wildlife, the percentage over the past 50 years of wildlife we've wiped out over 60%. I think it's close to 70% in just 50 years. And it's largely because we need the room to put livestock on. So it's something to really think about. And I mean, for wolves specifically, too, that it's all about the cattle and the livestock. And I'm not saying you shouldn't eat, those,
Right.
like that's a whole other different argument. But I am saying that, if we're going to keep on this trajectory, then we have to think more intelligently about what we're doing on that front, because just killing an entire species, just exterminating it because we want to just put cattle there isn't the solution.
Yeah.
It's, if we do that, then what do we have left over time? We're just, for Yellowstone, we know that when we took wolves out, we saw what happened there. Everything was thrown off balance. There was overgrazing. We saw species disappear. The beavers, eagles, everything got out of whack because the wolves were taken out. They were reintroduced, and now we know how much balance they bring to the ecosystem. They were that missing link. And to say that Yellowstone, I mean, at the thought of them potentially killing 600 wolves in Montana, what they want to do, some of those are going to be Yellowstone wolves. We already know at least 6 of them are slated to be killed with what they want for that area. Can you imagine? I mean, Yellowstone, you're going to throw it off again, the ecosystem, by killing off the wolves because they don't know invisible park boundaries.
Right.
There was, just 4 years ago, 21 Yellowstone wolves were killed. That was the same winter I started to become more active with advocacy. 21 wolves, including an entire pack of wolves, just gone because they crossed over the park boundary. And how is it? I mean, I really think people should think about this hard. You have a state, well, the park falls in a couple different states, but you have an area where wolves are just revered and people come from all over the world to see them. And then right outside of there, they're treated like vermin. How is that? How does that happen? It's, I feel like
heartbreaking.
a moral question that I feel like society really we need to ask ourselves. How much are we valuing our national parks? If you're just going to let them kill the wolves that are in the parks. I mean, there's been multiple times I visited Yellowstone where I found out afterwards that one of the collared wolves was killed during my visit there. Just because it wandered out of the park. And the one time it was the last day of the hunting season. And just, kill a wolf and hand it into the park service, the collar, like it's nothing.
Yeah. And it's very unfortunate because I feel like there's so many stories of connection and just like the act of killing a creature just to kill it is I find it very hard to be able to like access that way of thinking at all, it's just so hard. Like I think of another guest that I had on, Cheryl, and she documented Takaya, the lone wolf of Vancouver Islands, and was documenting him for many years rather. And he was also taken by a wolf hunter, you
Right.
know? And it's just, and this was a wolf that had been followed like through Cheryl, like showcasing him through the world, and people loved him, and the amount of love that goes towards, one animal. And then just, I find it so hard, like the needless killing of wolves. Like I just personally find it hard, like, to kill a predator, because they don't produce in the way ungulates do, that there's so many of them.
Right.
I think it's one thing to be, sustainable, to be able to hunt your own food, to hunt elk or whatever, but then, or deer rather. And then the second that I like, what are you doing with the bot? Like, what are you doing with all of that? You're just killing it, and it's just such a dead end, quite literally. Don't mean to put a pun on that, but like, it's just, there's, to like me, and like, I remember talking about this with Diane Boyd, and like, she's like, hunters do see a value in it. She's like, I don't understand it either, but that's their value, is that like, oh, I see a wolf, and like, to be able to say I hunted and killed it. But I just don't see, like, it's not the same value as hunting to kill, or like, like you're blessing, like, like the Native Americans do, like when they take an animal, it's like they don't
Right.
want to do it, but they're very grateful for the sacrifice of that animal to be able to feed their family. There's a
Yeah.
huge difference in that than just taking a life just to take a life.
Right. And I can completely respect the hunters that hunt for their own food and,
Yeah.
for survival. If that I can understand that, but trophy hunting's not something I'm ever going to understand.
Same.
I also don't
Yeah.
understand posing with dead animals, but that's just me. I guess
Same.
if you're proud of, if it was a big effort for you to, but still in my mind, I'm just like, oh, that's a creature that is sentient. And, I don't know, it's just kind of weird to me,
Yeah.
but that's, to each their own. I just don't understand um, the mentality of thinking it's fun to take another life to hang something on your wall and for no
Yeah.
other reason and to gloat about it. That to me never will make sense.
No, never. I also think that this is a big, like, I kind of think of it, maybe in a little bit of a jestful way, but talking back to what we were talking about with therapy, like, maybe maybe they just need some therapy. Everybody needs a therapist. So um that's just like kind of like what I think too. And I think that, like, back in maybe like the olden days in ancient history, when the world was still, there were still so many animals out there, okay, maybe, but we've also decimated animal populations. We're in like a grand extinction, and predators don't produce as quickly, like we just said, in the way that, ungulates and other prey species do. So, and it's like this ignoring of the facts and the science, and like it I'm sure, like you said, it like hurts until like you're blue in the face trying to say, what about the tourism, what about the science, what about this? Like, I'm just spewing facts, and then no one wants to listen, because there's just, a few people that want this resource. But I think it's like a really good point that maybe not that many people know, because I didn't know that they're, especially about the board. That's the first that I'm hearing of that. So I appreciate you, like, knowing that and telling us.
Yeah, it's a systemic issue with the boards of different states, the commissioners, consisting of, you would think they should have, at least some of them should have a scientific background.
Yeah.
But, when it's either all hunting, trophy hunting, ranching, in Florida, it's development and real estate.
Yeah.
And the issue they have with the bears, they're wanting to open that up to hunting, and those bears, they allow hounding, baiting and hounding. Which I don't know if you've seen any of this. You don't want to see it, but
I've heard
it's
of it, but it's
disgusting.
unimaginably cruel.
These are deeply sentient beings, bears, and knowing that the people there are okay with having hounds rip them to shreds, which is not a quick process. I don't know. I think one of the biggest issues we have in society is a lack of empathy right now. It can be
Yeah.
said for a lot of things,
Yeah.
not just animals, but other humans too. Um, and I mean, we see that with Cody Roberts too.
Yeah.
It's extremely evident with Cody Roberts. How anyone can think that it makes sense to torture a wolf. I mean, this was a young wolf, basically a pup.
Yeah.
And she was out in the wild and proceeded to be run over by a snowmobile and then taken to his home, have his dogs attack her, tape her mouth shut. I mean, at this point, she could barely move. Brings her into a bar where
Yeah.
people proceed to, I think it was his daughter giggling in there. And I mean, the footage is just, but somebody, there was one person at least who had the right mind to say something's off here, something's wrong, and submitted that footage. So
Yeah.
thankfully, that person did the right thing, and now he could potentially face felony charges because of it, which, if that happens, is sadly huge in Wyoming. But
Yeah.
it's something. And
Because there was a bill, right, that was proposed to stop the
yeah, I mean,
use
so
of snowmobiles.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was slapped with a $250 fine for wolf possession, and that was it. And
Yeah.
despite global outcry, despite people threatening to never visit the state again, despite, the phone calls, emails, these, I'm just going to go right out and say it, these psychopaths are
Yeah.
protected. They're being protected. And until what really needs to change is that they have to pass the law that running over these animals with snowmobiles it's unethical. It should be obvious, I would think.
Yeah.
But that needs to be outlawed, because if it was, this never would have happened. But the
Yeah.
other thing that's scary is, who knows what kind of crazy people are out there doing this kind of thing, and just somebody didn't have the right mind to video, to get it, to
That's
record
right.
it. We don't know. But in little towns like that, apparently it's totally okay with most of the folks. And I just don't. I
Yeah.
live in a rural area myself, and I can't imagine anybody being okay with that here. I just, my mind can't wrap around the lack of empathy. I don't understand how
Yeah.
the
I
mind
feel
does
like we
work
need
like that.
to I feel like we also need to start, right? Because there was a big law that got passed where, right, it's and forgive me for not knowing like the exact thing, but that animal cruelty is a felony. That was a big thing, and that's a big portion. But this is just for pets and whatnot. But
Yeah,
if that's a felony, I think that the whole point of why we need that needed to happen was there was showcasing that a lot of the people that are okay with torturing and killing animals are not in the right state of mind, right?
right.
So I think that we need to extend this to wildlife, because I don't think cruelty in any way to any animal or sentient being in general should be allowed. I mean, I think we've come to a place in society, in the world, where it should be completely unacceptable. It's one thing, again, to be a hunter and to go out and, like, ethical hunters, to make sure, like, oh, I want to make sure I'm taking a good shot so that, this animal doesn't suffer, right? I think
Right.
there's obviously a huge difference between that and then running over animals with a snowmobile.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be allowed.
No,
So I think something needs to change here.
yeah, and I really hope that this is the catalyst for it. I really hope. It took
Yeah.
17 months, but, if they say, if the saying is true that, all things come to those who wait, then, hopefully something will finally happen. The fact that we're still like, they need evidence for, for him to be handed felony charges. I don't know what more you need than what's already been put out there, Like, it's
Yeah,
all
I
out on
mean,
display, right?
yeah, he was comfortable enough to bring that wolf into a bar. There's photos everywhere of it, and everybody knows the story. So I don't know what more evidence people want. And then on top of that, when people were rallying and having that rally against them, somebody killed a coyote and brought it there as
Yeah.
well to showcase we don't care. We don't care at all, and
How
we're
messed up
just
is
gonna,
that, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Ugh.
and I think it's Cody Roberts. Is it his aunt or one of his relatives who owns the bar? Something like that. So everybody knows everybody there, and nobody wants to blame anybody because then they'll be pretty much like an outcast from their bubble, right?
Right.
Except for whoever that person was who submitted the video, thankfully. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I was thinking, I was thinking about wolves and how just over time the stigmas that they've faced over the centuries. Um, it's it's actually very similar to me. I don't know if you know about what cats have gone through, domestic cats over the
Mm,
centuries. But
no.
cats and not. I hope I'm not going off topic too much, but
No,
it's
that's
very
okay.
interesting because cats and in medieval times they had cat burning ceremonies in France.
Wow.
They would actually, I'm not kidding, you can go look this up. They would
Wow.
take cats and fill them in baskets and have bonfires where they just would set cats on fire because they were considered to be um, signs of like bad omens or related to devil worship or related to witchcraft. And I think it was in the 1600s, Louis the 14th or something like that, he like held a big bonfire and danced while like just a bunch of cats went up in flames. Um and
Oh,
they were frequently burned throughout Europe in medieval times. And I mean, you think about like the Black Death and the bubonic plague. You remove
yeah.
cats from the society, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
But I'm mentioning it because I think the main reason I'm mentioning this is because for the longest time, for centuries, cats were given this horrible label and stigma, and we don't think of them that way now, really. At least I
Right.
hope we don't. But just as recently, if you look in culture, popular culture, think of the movie Cinderella from,
Mhm.
was it the 50s? The cat in that movie was named Lucifer.
Right.
The
Right.
the the evil stepmother petting the cat on the bed, Lucifer, and like it was just supposed to be this evil cat. Like it's just they've been given sort of this bad rap for a long time, but I'm just saying like that mindset can change, and I really hope
Right.
that that's what's going to happen with wolves.
I
Um,
hope so too.
yeah, I mean, speaking of like in medieval times, did you know that strong, like outspoken women were called she wolves?
Ooh, I did not know that, but I love
Yeah.
that.
So I think that, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, there's a lot of history that I feel like can be talked about with this, and I could probably talk all day, but we have a limited time on here, I know.
Sure. Yeah. But I also, before we kind of like wrap this up, it's funny because one of my very first, actually my very first podcast guest that I had on, who I love, Maria Souza, and her handle is Women in Mythology. But she literally studies myths for a living, and you know, um, talking to her about it too is, the way to like live a mythic life. But the whole point of myths in general, were just supposed to tell us things that we should know about ourselves. They're supposed to be symbolic stories, right? Like, and those, the symbolism isn't supposed to be taken so literally. You're supposed to be able to go deeper and to be able to recognize themes and things like that. It wasn't meant to always be taken so literally. So especially I think nowadays where we are hopefully should be much more educated now, to be able to dispel some of these myths and, be able to kind of, back them up now with like science and what we can actually take from myths and turn inward and be able to change like our inner selves, instead of just being like, oh, I take this myth at face value and it's exactly as it says, is not at all what storytellers were, for
Right.
many centuries were meaning when they told those stories. So
Right.
just another point to be able to have there, especially in regards to the wolf, unfortunately, having so many bad myths about them.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Maybe just like the last little bit before we go, but what like and like on a more positive note, but like what are your favorite things about wolves?
Oh, there's a lot that I love about wolves, but the fact that they're extremely intelligent, they're loyal, very family oriented, um, they're ecosystem guardians. They,
Yeah.
without them, our ecosystem doesn't function properly. They're powerful, they're misunderstood, um, they're magnificent.
Yeah.
I love so much about wolves, and I think what I love the most about them is that the more I learn about them, which I'm learning about them all the time, the more I love them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can say that with other animals. I can say that about bears. I can say that about cougars. There's a lot of animals I can say that about too. So it's not exclusive to wolves, but um, I feel like they're the ones that I resonate with the most. And I attribute that to my experiences them so far in the wild. And there's so much more I have to experience.
Absolutely. And I'm very excited to experience that through your eyes and hopefully one day to experience it with my own eyes. But until then, I really am enjoying, your work and I really love all of the photography that you share so generously out onto social media and everything like that. I know you said you have like a couple of cool things coming up. Did you want to mention that as well?
Yeah, well, so International Wolf Day is on August 13th, which is coming up
Mm.
pretty soon here. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with what's going on up in British Columbia right
A
now
little bit,
with the
unfortunately,
wolves.
yes.
So we talked about aerial gunning in Alaska. That's also happening in British Columbia and Pacific Wild. I encourage everybody to go follow their Instagram page to learn more about what I'm going to briefly mention. But Pacific Wild actually did something very brilliant recently, and they did a 1 day only pop up shop in Victoria, downtown
I saw
Victoria,
that.
BC. You saw that called, yeah,
It was
and
really cool.
yeah, so the idea was that, there's so much that goes into promoting souvenirs and for things for people, just these happy things for people to buy with wolves and stores there. And the brutal truth, as they call it, is that most people aren't aware of how the wolves are treated there. And that over 2,500, I think it's 2,543, have been killed over the past decade there. And over $11 million has been spent on the efforts, getting them down from helicopters and or fitted with Judas collars. So the
Uh,
wolves will unknowingly lead killers to their packs and they can wipe out the entire pack.
yeah,
And for a decade, BC has been killing wolves under the banner of protecting caribou, but there's no scientific evidence to support that. The caribou are um, they're dying out due to habitat loss and climate change and disease, not due to wolves or bears. Um,
right.
and so Pacific Wild was really exposing this with that pop-up store, which I thought was brilliant. And I'm going to be going up on the 13th. They're going to have a table there on International Wolf Day on the Legislative Lawn in BC. And you can actually go and hand deliver your Brutal BC postcards directly to the decision makers there and let them know that
Wow.
this isn't right, that you don't support it. But for those folks who can't do that, which is most folks, I
Right.
do encourage you to go to the Pacific Wild page and see what you can do to take action virtually, remote, take action via email. They have different ways that you can be making your voice heard.
I'll make sure to tag them in like the description below so people can easily access that. And I wish you luck doing that, and thank you for doing that too on behalf of like all wolves and for all of us that can't go there. To be able to do that. And I know that, and for people, I think that, and especially because we were talking about how can we change someone's mind, this just popped up to me, was that you never know, like, if what one person, like, if you can change one person's mind, like, if, somebody that you love and that you have that connection to wildlife and animals, and if you're able to showcase that passion to somebody that you love that maybe doesn't feel the same way, but they love you, that's one way that, and if you could change their mind, then you never know, like, what other minds you can hopefully change in the future too.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that that's the best way of me utilizing my time for International Wolf Day is to
Yeah.
literally go up there and hand deliver what my personal feelings are to the decision makers who have been okay with aerial gunning of our wolves. So,
Yeah.
hopefully everybody can do their part and take some sort of action to help speak out for the wolves.
Absolutely. And Candace, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. And really important topics and issues that, like, you did some research and were able to give us. So I really appreciate that. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you and reach you?
The best way to reach out to me is on Instagram. Either message me on there or you can send me an email at CandiceDyer@gmail.com. I also recently started up a partnership with the Wildlife Collective. So, if you're interested on any of the conservation efforts that we have going on in partnership, I encourage you to reach out directly to them. And if they have so many different ways that you can speak out and help their efforts.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to add all of those links below as well so people can easily access that. But again, thank you so much for your time. And it's been really wonderful to chat with you and connect with you on the subject that I feel like is so close to both of our hearts, and which is wolves. So
Thank
I
you so
really
much
hope
for
that,
having me.
yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And I really appreciate it. And I really hope one day that we don't have to hopefully talk this in depth on trying to convince people how amazing wolves are.
That's the hope.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Wild Ones, for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you,
Bye.
Brianna.
Thank you.
Revel in the moment like a river flowing to the sea. I feel the energy of life force flowing all through me, and I'll allow it all to dance with my body and play. And no one could ever